Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to do a brief review on my latest addition to my growing collection, the Springfield Armory XDS-4.0 in 45 ACP. This is not a paid review, and you will see that I do have a few issues with this weapon. All trademarks are copyright of their respected owners. When I first purchased this firearm, I had never before purchased anything from Springfield, and I had no idea that they packed the case with so much stuff. My initial impression was wow! Holsters, mag pouches, gun locks, cleaning brush, extra fiber optics, and 2 magazines. Plus the construction of the case is excellent, and it even has lock holes so you can put your TSA approved gun locks on it if you intend on flying this weapon onto a vacation destination, or as I do, for the holster that comes in the case isn't bad. It's not great, but it is functional. It's a paddle holster and was designed specifically for the XDS, and it can be adjusted for the amount of resistance or grab on the weapon, but it isn't a retention holster. I would use this at the range, but not for daily carry. The mag pouch is a different story. I hate it. I hate everything about it. It's designed in a V shape, which makes it wider than necessary. Plus, I always carry my extra mags on my non-shooting side with the bullets facing to my rear. I can't do that with this mag pouch because it was designed for one magazine to face forward while the other faces to the rear. You can't insert magazines any other way. Also, even with the retention adjustment as loose as I could get it, it was virtually impossible to insert a mag in the left side. In my opinion, this is just poor quality, bad construction, and I simply will not use it. Also included is an extra back strap to change the grip on the XDS. The one that came pre-installed on mine is perfect for my hands, so I won't be changing it. But there is also a magazine grip extender that matches the curve of the extra back strap, so if you change the grip, you can be sure your grip extender matches. And here's what you really want to see: the gun itself. I've got to be honest here, I was a Glock guy for the past 23 years. I'll forever keep mine, and I'm never going to sell it. I've carried a Model 22 and 40 caliber since 1991. But when I put this XDS in my hand, it was as if it was meant to be there. It felt perfect. The overall design, to me, is fantastic. It has the polymer frame that I'm used to and the Go paddle trigger that I'm accustomed to, along with the small front rail if attaching lasers, lights, or other accessories is your thing. The magazine release is ambidextrous and is easily reached by my thumb or my trigger finger, depending on what side I want to drop it from. And the XDS incorporates the same grip safety as is common with the 1911s. Additionally, as you can see here, the XDS is fitted with a loaded chamber indicator. A small rail raises up on the top of the slide if there is a round loaded in the chamber. At first, I was a little miffed by this, thinking that Springfield had just sold out to some California or New York nanny state regulation. But as I became more familiar with this, I actually grew to like it. This is an easy visual indicator on whether or not there is a round in the chamber, and simply by sliding my finger across the top in a low light situation, I can be reassured that my weapon is on the ready. The front sight is a fiber optic sight. Personally, I would rather have had Springfield take the extra step and include a set of night sights, but this is the next best thing. It does present very well, and so far I've had no issues in being able to see the sight. They even included in the case 2 extra strips of fiber optic material, one in red and one in neon green should I ever decide to change the sight color, or if I need to replace a broken or chipped strip. But again, taking the extra measure to have had factory-installed night sights would have been a tremendous plus in my opinion. The rear sights are the standard 2 white dots. Decent construction, and out of the box they were bang on. My previous comment still stands, and I would really have appreciated night sights, but these do blend into the overall look and feel of the XDS. The side profile is low and shaped so as not to snag clothes or holsters on a draw. And as you can see, the contrast between the front red and the rear white is pretty good. When I took this to the range, I was really impressed by the ease in which I was able to be on target. There is something about the way the overall grip and the angle of this weapon is designed. It's as if this XDS wants to be on target. This is the most natural aiming pistol I own. Here, you can see the right side ambidextrous mag drop button. But let's talk about this grip. This grip is insane. I'm going to put this grip in both the Pro and the Con categories. On the Pro side, you couldn't lose control of this gun if you were jello wrestling, covered in baby oil, and suffering a seizure all at the same time. And for a carry weapon, That's a good thing, because I don't know about you, but Jello wrestling is highly competitive and you never know when you may need to defend yourself. But seriously, for a concealed carry weapon, I want something that I can grip and that grips me back, and this does that quite well. On the con side, however, range days are painful. After shooting 200 rounds of 45 ACP, my palm hurt. I felt if I had been stroking a length of barbed wire fence while feeding piranhas. Springfield should design a soft rubber backstrap for the grip. I think I'll probably cover the grip in moleskin for when I'm practicing and take it back off for normal carry. Even the grip extenders on the 7-round mags have the same matching pattern. In my experience, I'll never use the 5-round mag. Ever. My hand simply doesn't fit the XDS unless I'm using the 7-round mag with that grip extension. My only gripe about the extension is, well, actually I have two gripes. One, when you're loading the mag, it has a tendency to slide around on the magazine, forcing the need to reposition the extender. The other is actually how it fits as an extender below the pistol grip. As you can see, there is a small gap between the magazine grip extension and the pistol's grip. This felt weird when I was shooting. Springfield should design a small rubber gasket on the top of the grip extension that would fill the gap between it and the pistol grip. My other major complaint on the XDS is the trigger. I know I said it was similar to the Glock trigger that I was used to, but this feels terrible. Out of the box, the trigger moves about 18.5 miles before the final take-up. Then it requires roughly 3 tons of pressure to fire. Everything I have ever read says the gun needs to be broken in, and after a few hundred rounds the trigger gets better. But I've spent nearly 2 days dry firing and cycling this weapon in addition to the 200 rounds that I shot for this test. I can't tell if the trigger is getting better or if I'm just getting used to it. This could just be me. It could just be a bad trigger. Or it could be normal for the XDSs. I'm only telling you what my experience is with this specific gun. Every handgun I've owned was either designed with or changed to a light trigger, with the exception of my Glock 40 caliber. The primary things I've taken away from over 2 decades of shooting and carrying is that in a high-stress situation, my fine motor coordination disappears. For me, that means that my fingers start to feel as if they were replaced by gloved duck feet. My finger feels the gold pedal of a normal polymer pistol or any double-action revolver. Chances are it's not going to fire until I make a conscious effort to actually squeeze the trigger. For me, my concealed carry weapon, and one that will be my primary CCW and not placed on the bedstand at night, means that I want a very light, nearly match-level trigger. If I draw my CCW gun, it's because I'm facing a threat that I have identified, meaning I can see it. Chances are that if I have drawn my gun, I'm going to shoot. Otherwise, it would have stayed in the holster. I'm not worried about not shooting or accidentally shooting from a light trigger. And since this is going to be my primary CCW, I want that light trigger. However, if this was to be placed on my nightstand for home defense, I might be half asleep, groggy, confused, or otherwise unable to identify the threat. This threat could be anywhere in a home. I may even be mistaken about who is or what is the threat. Then, the trigger, as it is in my XDS now, would be perfect, as I would want that extra margin of safety with this 10 million pound trigger, but not in my primary CCW. The other issue I have is with the distance between the trigger guard and the trigger tip. My finger rubs against the guard. I have to consciously reposition my index finger every time I draw so I don't rub the guard. This is going to take a lot of retraining to get used to. Now here's where the XDS really is on top of the world. A CCW needs to be thin. I used to have 2 primary CCWs, my Glock 40 cal for use with coats and heavy hoodies in the winter months, and a small pocket-sized 9mm for use in shorts and a t-shirt. The 40 caliber Glock would print entirely too much unless I was wearing a coat. But this XDS is perfect for both. At 0.9 inches thick, it's amazingly thin, and with a 7+1 capacity of 45 ACP, it holds enough ammo to stop several of those angry Jello wrestlers. This gun is comfortable at my side. It just simply feels good. Now, while this is not a review of ammunition, and I'm not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't carry in your gun, I had this picture lying around and I wanted to use it. It also happens to be what I personally choose as my defensive carry ammo. 230 grain federal personal defense rounds, which are ballistically the same as federal premium law enforcement 230 grain rounds. I reload and I reload for my practice rounds, but I do not carry reloads in my CCW as primary defensive ammo. Not because I'm worried about functionality, but because so far I've not been able to find a single powder that has low flash. At night, I want a factory powder that has flash retardant in it so I do not blind myself on the first shot. But that's neither here nor there, and that's not what this review is about. Now, let's take a look and see how this weapon did the first time I took it to the range. This is the first 7 shots I ever fired with a Springfield, and the first 7 shots I ever fired with a 45. This was from 7 yards or 21 feet. Yeah, I pulled one. Bite me. I could blame it on the guy in the firing lane to my left who was shooting a 410 pistol, the concussion from which penetrated the wall and smacked me on the side of the face right as I pulled the trigger. But I won't. I chose 21 feet as my initial test as, well, FBI statistics and shooting incidents say most occur within 21 feet, so I wanted to see what I could do with this XDS out of the box. Overall, I gotta say I was impressed. Never having fired an XDS before, and also being a bit taken aback by the jerk of a compact 45 shooting a 230 grain round, I still managed to hit what I was aiming at. Hey, quit looking at that one to the left. It's still in the 10 ring. Barely. Now, I must admit that this XDS is a jumpy little booger. I don't know if it was that fact or because my hand was raw and hurting, but even at the end of 200 rounds, I still was not able to produce good groups on double taps. The reset trigger is amazingly snappy, and I like that a lot. My double taps, however, were all inside the 8 ring, but they weren't consistently tight. I guess I just need more practice and to be more accustomed to the way this gun shoots. My final verdict on this is that I'm going to change the trigger. I am not going to wait for a break-in period that may not even help. I know what I want out of a trigger, and I'm going to change the one in this gun. After the new trigger is in, I am convinced this will become my primary concealed carry weapon. I'll probably even carry it as such prior to changing the trigger. The ergonomics, the overall feel, the ease of sighting, the balance, well, those things are to me just about as perfect as they can get. And the major issue I have with it isn't a deal breaker because I can change it. If you are looking for a compact 45 for concealed carry, get to a range and shoot this thing. Try it before you buy it. And only ever buy something that you're going to shoot and practice with. No gun will work if you don't carry it, and you're not going to carry it if you're not happy with it. But I would highly recommend checking out this Springfield SDX 4.0 in 45 ACP.